Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Police Services Board meeting of February 23. Let me begin with our Indigenous land acknowledgement. We would like to begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather and which the Region of Peel operates as part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. For thousands of years, Indigenous people inhabited and cared for this land. In particular, we acknowledge the territory of the Anishinaabe, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Ojibwe Chippewa peoples, the land that is home to the Métis, and most recently, the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, who are direct descendants of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We are grateful to have this opportunity to work on this land, and by doing so, give our respect to its first inhabitants. We're going to start with the roll call. All members are present, and I know Mayor Brown was on his way. He was with us a moment ago with big announcement with the Premier in Brampton, but he is in transit. But we have quorum and we are good to go. First item I want to deal with is our public agenda with regards to section report. I've got first item I'm going to deal with. I have the roll call. We have declaration, approval of the minutes from the last OPP Section 10 board meeting. Will someone move the minutes for me? Moved by Al Boughton, seconded by Ahmed. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? That is carried. Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat. Under new business, item 2, OPP 2023 fourth quarters operational statistical analysis. Mary Louise Detachment Commander, please proceed. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. Good to see all of you. I'd like to start, of course, our final report of 2023, which entails October to December of 23. I'll start first to talk about the public complaints that we received during that time period. We received 3 during that time period. I'm going to move on from that point to our motor vehicle, our traffic report. And between the months of October to December, the Caledon OPP have actually seen a total of 4 fatal motor vehicle collisions. Sadly, these collisions have resulted in a total of 5 persons losing their lives. Of the 4 collisions, 3 of the collisions occurred in the month of December. All 4 collisions that happened were head-on or offset head-on type collisions. It is believed at this time that such factors of speeding, lack of seatbelt use, and driver inattention are contributing factors in these collisions. Year to date, there has been a dramatic increase in the number of fatal collisions that have happened on Caledon roadways. Unfortunately, when we take a closer look at all of the Caledon fatals or even personal injury and property damage collisions, there's not just one reason to why these collisions are occurring. The vast majority of these collisions are simply a result of drivers not adhering to traffic laws that are designed to keep all road users safe. With that being said, the Caledon OPP still continues to aim to eliminate these tragic events from reoccurring on our roadways. We have continued to be proactive in our approach in order to position ourselves for this to be successful. Our members have continued to work with our partners in the town of Caledon and the region of Peel to look for collaborative ways to improve Caledon's road safety. As part of this, members of the OPP will review each and every one of these fatal collisions with members of the Peel Regional Vision Zero Fatal Collision Review Committee. These members will dissect these collisions and look for potential improvements that can be made. As I've indicated previously to this board, these meetings are informative for those involved, allowing an opportunity for partners to gain a deeper understanding of the circumstances and contributing factors associated with these fatal collisions. During this fourth quarter, the Caledon OPP have partaken in 2 provincial traffic safety campaigns. In October, during the Thanksgiving long weekend, we had Operation Impact, which focused on the OPP's big 4 offenses, which are impaired driving, seatbelt use, speeding, and distracted driving. In total, our members issued during that weekend campaign 298 offense notices. Some of the highlights of that campaign were 45 of those tickets were vehicle occupants not wearing their seatbelts. 84 were speeding offenses. 8 stunt drivers where vehicles were impounded and their licenses suspended. 4 impaired drivers. And all of these enforcement actions have, without a doubt, went towards helping prevent injuries and death from happening on our roadways. The Caledon OPP also just finished during that quarter wrapping up our provincial festive ride campaign. This campaign ran from November 16th and came to an end January 1st. There were numerous ride spot locations all over Caledon area, which resulted in 46 impaired drivers being removed from our roadways. I can truly say I am proud of our membership, their collective efforts in improving road safety in Caledon. We'll move on to violent crime. In this quarter, we saw a decrease in robberies that occurred. Of course, I can attest to the fact that there's lots of collaboration with community street teams, not only Caledon, but our neighboring detachments and our partners with Peel Regional Police. Caledon Major Crime completed numerous judicial authorization warrants and executed numerous search warrants in the end, which had successful collusion with lots of stolen property being located within several residents that were searched during that time period. During this time, our sexual assault investigations have increased slightly. In this quarter, we have 4 cases that have been cleared by charge, 2 that had insufficient evidence, and 1 that was unfounded. During this period, I also want to share that, of course, we had an increase in the attempt murder, and this case affected 2 of our officers from the Caledon OPP detachment, where they were called to assist with the investigation of a suspicious vehicle that ended up being a stolen vehicle. Officers had arrived on scene and the vehicle was occupied by 2 male occupants who, upon waking, decided to reverse the vehicle to get away from police, driving directly at one of our officers, striking him and sending him into a parked car, causing much damage to one of his legs. The suspects then accelerated and fled the area. I want to talk about the collaboration in regards to that. In the days following the incident, investigators from Caledon Crime Unit, as well as numerous other OPP officers across Ontario, worked with our Street Crime Unit, followed up on several leads, establishing through background checks, witness statements, canvassing, and of course our forensic ident team. We identified the suspects and brought this investigation to a successful conclusion with both suspects under arrest and the driver charged with attempt murder. Of note, I'm also happy to report as of this week, Tuesday, the SIU have cleared our officers and any wrongdoing, which is fantastic. We have seen overall a slight drop in violent crime, with the exception of sexual assault investigations and again the attempt that we spoke about. I will move on now to some highlights from the property crime section. Robbery, there has been an increase in overall number of incidents. We have seen an uptick in home invasions and especially carjackings, which of course is affecting not only us, but the Greater Toronto Area. As Brampton grows into Caledon and the increase in population happens, we would expect to see this increase. With the theft of the high-end automobile thefts, the increase in carjackings and home invasions for vehicle keys. Now, the decrease in this quarter specifically, we've had numerous successful projects and arrests in the area of carjacking and pharmacy-type robberies by the OPP and our regional partners. With the creation of the Carjacking Task Force, which is a multi-service joint forces project, there have been numerous successful arrests of suspect. I also want to mention, and this is important, that because of this, we continue to have great success in this. And of course, I will report as we continue on in 24 all the great successes that we will have in that area. B&Es, a slight increase in the number of incidents this quarter compared to the same in last quarter. Residential break and enters have increased in Caledon in the last quarter. Property crime rates are ever increasing in the GTA. And I believe this is partially as a result of low penalties in our courts for property crime. Property crime is lucrative, especially in the area such as Caledon. Risk of being caught, of course, is challenging, especially with face masks, and in light of COVID, that is something that we've obviously seen or we're more aware of. Theft over, small increase in the number of incidents this quarter and a large increase year to date. Ontario, including Caledon, has seen a large increase in auto theft in 2023. As vehicle theft has become so profitable, many criminal elements have entered into this type of activity. Caledon OPP has been working very closely with our regional partners such as Peel Regional Police, Quebec Police Agencies, CBSA, Equité Association to establish focused patrols, projects, joint operations to conduct numerous search warrants and arrests of subjects committing these thefts. Caledon Street Crime has executed numerous auto theft related search warrants in this last quarter. And it's so exciting to announce that we are currently working with Caledon, Dufferin, and Nottawasaga, and we've joined together to obtain funding in the form of grant money for auto theft initiatives that are being implemented as we speak. Theft under, a slight decrease quarter to quarter and year to year. I believe that commercial businesses have become better at combating minor thefts such as shoplifting, which is wonderful to see. Our drug crime, comparable numbers year to year, with an increase in possession charges, which is also very good to hear. And our platoons are more likely to encounter simple possession charges from our numerous traffic stops and interactions initially related to drugs. So just to wrap up, I wanted to announce some exciting news, and of course, Al Boughton's always happy to hear this one, but I can say that we welcome 3 new experienced officers in this last quarter. Wonderful to see. They come with a numerous experience, which we welcome. We also welcomed 3 new recruits, which is fantastic, and they provide the energy and the enthusiasm that we need. And I also wanted to share, I brought one of our sergeants here today, Jeff Fleer. Jeff has worked with the OPP for several years, and it's been my privilege. He's provided leadership in the area of my civilians in Caledon. He is moving on to another leadership opportunity, so I wanted to publicly thank him for his leadership that I have seen. And I know that he will continue to contribute great things for our organization and our partners.
I will do my best. Thanks very much.
So thank you. And that is the wrap-up report for this beautiful Friday. Do I have any questions?
Yes, your good friend Al Boughton's on my list, but before Commander, I'll say thank you to you, and Jeff will say thank you to you, and good luck in your future endeavors. Mr. Boughton, please.
Through you, Chair. Thank you, Jeff. Welcome. Nice to have you here. And when you had indicated, Commander, that 3 new cops on the road, if you look at the Highway Traffic Act, the charges increase from 2022 backwards to 2021, which isn't on here. We were way down because the complement of officers at Caledon was way down. Is that accurate?
That is correct. I can report actually from last year to this year, our tickets, and as you would say, are up almost 3,000 from last year.
Because you have
I have more numbers,
officers?
and definitely we've put a real concentrated effort in making sure that the visibility and the interactions with the public are not only positive, but also will lead hopefully to making our roadways safer.
Okay. Do you have a full complement now, or are you still down on officers of what you would like to have?
I always want more officers.
I know you do.
We all know, whether it be my partners here or the OPP, we all know that the more officers on the road that are front line service our communities better. So I encourage anybody that's listening here, if they know people that want to be a police officer, it's definitely a great time to be. And so all of you, I would say, have a job in encouraging all our youth to come join, whether it be Peel Regional or the OPP. Great opportunities for growth, and it's so nice to be part of servicing our community and making sure that we live in a better and a safer community.
Okay, and thank you. On the fatalities, obviously way up, and as a Caledon citizen, we're concerned about it. I know one of the ones, I think it was a double fatality in Airport Road. It was an elderly gentleman who crossed over and hit somebody head on. I think that was a couple. On the ones that were all over the news, they were younger drivers. Is
Yeah,
that correct? And it appears to be distracted / seat belts, the ones with 2 or 3 fatalities in a period of a week, right?
Yeah,
Can you
very sadly, those fatalities from our initial investigation, unfortunately, seatbelts, lack of seatbelt use was a huge issue. Speed, of course, is always our primary reason for some of these collisions. Tragically, I have officers such as Joe Brisbaugh, who's in our media. We encourage people, to wear their seatbelt. We do lots of campaigns. We encourage people to watch their speed. And I know for this year, the traffic plan is we're going to try to make sure we have officers in some of these more high areas that are more focused patrols, depending on the times that we've seen these collisions happening. But these are all preventable. These are all driver action. These aren't because of the roadways. It's because drivers aren't doing what they should be to make our roadways safe.
Okay, and the last, Chair, through you, in my previous life, we rented out about 10 acres of land over on Spar, and for parking of trailers for Walmart, Canadian Tire, Sobeys, Home Depot. And trailers will be dropped there. One of the biggest things we had to do, and almost daily, was to empty the garbage cans, and that would be full of liquor bottles that were coming out of these tractors, that are hauling these trailers up and down the road. I don't think they brought them from home. My guess would be they were drinking trucks. It was incredible how many bottles we were collecting on a weekly basis that were they would throw it out there to get it out. When you do your blitzes, are you with the truck trailers, do you look for that? And how much of that becomes part of the routine when you're pulling people over to check weights and safety of the trucks and all that?
100%. 100%. Like impaired driving, like I said, unfortunately, I'm sure across nationally, we see an increase in that. I think the penalties for that aren't as strict in regards to court processes as they should be. And definitely we see an increase in our young people. A lot of our impaired drivers are through collisions, which is sad. This year, one of our fatals involved an impaired driver. So sadly, I think it's the community's responsibility to make sure that when they're in the presence of somebody that's under the influence of alcohol or drugs, that they do the right thing and encourage somebody to stay or call somebody that can help them stay.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mayor Brown.
Thank you. You mentioned the increase in auto thefts in Caledon, and certainly we're seeing that in Brampton too. And then you mentioned the property thefts. I think it's fair to say we're seeing a lot of those connected. Are you seeing that as well with OPP in terms of the auto thefts being more brazen? So a property burglary is connected to getting the keys. Is there more connectivity there in terms of the brazen nature of these auto thefts?
Absolutely. Absolutely brazen. And that, Mayor, is a good word for that. They are brazen. They're not afraid. But I can tell you an exciting story, not that it's 23, but the other night, Toronto Police Service had a gunpoint G-Wagon stolen. And of course, Caledon came into Caledon's area. We identified the vehicle. The suspects fled. Collaboration of the OPP and Peel Regional Police apprehended this male who was young, who was under the age of 18 years old. And, we're seeing more and more of that. But I'm going to say the effort and the collaboration between police agencies now is unbelievable. And, this is coming from somebody like myself that as of April will have 30 years on this job. And the partnerships you see, Mayor, are second to none. And this is a national problem. And we are all working together because we have zero tolerance with this. So you're going to see more and more collaborations, more projects. And I think that the government is hearing us as well and is supporting us in all these initiatives that we want to bring forward.
Thank
So
you.
let's hope we get great results in '24.
Thank you. Looking forward to the chief's report on this later, too.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you. Commander, thank you. I have first a motion to receive the information from Al Boughton, seconded by Mayor Brown. All in favor? That is carried. And now a motion to adjourn again from the gentleman. Thank you very much for your presentation. We stand adjourned.
Thank you and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you. Okay, that takes us right into the Peel Police Services Board main agenda meeting, our public agenda for the 23rd of February, 2024. We've dealt with our Indigenous land acknowledgement. I will go through the roll call. Our only member missing with an excused absence is Vice Chair Coley. Declarations of any conflict of interest from any of my colleagues. Seeing none, Chief, over to you for your updates.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to the board. And as Commander Mayor Louise Kearns leaves, I just want to affirm that our relationship with the OPP detachment is as strong as it's ever been, and we continue to be privileged by the work between Caledon and Peel. That being said, I do have 4 operational updates, and it would be appropriate to begin with the February 8th National Auto Theft Summit, which was hosted by the Government of Canada, which I had the privilege of attending with, of course, Mayor Brown and Deputy Milinovic and Inspector Calvecchia. I want to say that it was comprised of industry partners, federal, provincial leaders, but I think I'm going to offer Nick the opportunity to speak to it, and I think he will highlight it. I just want to acknowledge that if it wasn't for the advocacy over a year ago of this board, Mayor Brown, and you, we were convinced, and I know Nick has spoken to this earlier, I don't think it would have got the attention or still get the attention that it is now. We are over 600 vehicles a month still here in Peel. It's not a problem that's ending, and Councillor Mahoney and we chatted about it, but a lot has happened in 1 year. The attention that's happened, Mayor Louise spoke about the carjacking task force. That's one sliver of the issue, but the progress being made is significant. I do want to acknowledge that the efforts on the advocacy still trickle down to uniformed officers and investigators trying to resolve this. We've gone from 12 to 16, perhaps, and we're not even talking about the extortions, which then to get these people investigating it, something else has to give here in Peel. But I think the community and the public need to know that not just at the highest level of advocacy, but at the front line, we are doing absolutely everything we can to turn the dial down on it. But it is a bigger issue than us. So, Nick, I just offer you the opportunity maybe to echo some of the highlights of the summit and then what's happening next here in Peel, because the momentum is forward for sure.
Absolutely, and thank you for that opportunity, Chief, through the chair. We had the opportunity to go to a national auto summit, and alongside our relevant ministers, the Prime Minister, really advocate on behalf of our community. And for me, I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention how proud I was to be able to do that, because there was a direct correlation between our ability to do that and represent the interests of our community and in my opinion, what started here in Peel almost a year ago. We held the first National Auto Summit, and that was replicated. Out of that summit came recommendations that required commitments from our partners, our policing partners, but industry stakeholders, and as well as community prevention. Since that time, we've continued to move the dial in those 3 recommendations. From the summit, we had federal representation that agreed a national strategy, which is something we've been advocating for, and our board and Mayor Brown has been advocating for, to begin to close some of the gaps. Such an easy crime for organized crime to take advantage of. They agreed that a national strategy needs to be developed and prepared, and committed to doing that for the winter. We've since had a number of funding announcements intended to enhance the resourcing at the ports, And, this continues to be an issue that we see as a large gap that needs to be addressed. It's staffing at the ports so that we can elevate the inspections, particularly of exports of vehicles. So we are seeing movement. We're seeing it at the federal level, but we're also seeing it in insurance industries as well. They have now engaged and are offering reductions on insurance premiums for anti-theft tracking. There's a whole host of things that I believe since we held our summit we've been successful in achieving that are really outside of our purview or ability to direct. But it's a reflection of the platform that's been created by everybody in this room and the women and men of Peel Police. So, and I offer this with at arm's distance, a tip of the hat to everybody that's contributed and worked so hard and heard our community's concerns. So very well done. In addition, March 20th, we are holding our second annual summit. It is going to be slightly different and certainly a reflection of how we've evolved in our approach. It is no longer just going to be proprietary to Peel. Our partners have agreed and will be joining us in delivering that summit. It is going to be sponsored by industry. Obviously, it's an important issue to them. It's becoming a growing issue of concern for them, so they're willing to also contribute dollars to help create solutions and solve the issue. In addition to the summit, our second annual summit on March 20th, we are going to be hosting the International Auto Theft Investigators group from March 6th to 9th here in Peel. That'll be the first time that international group has come to Peel. And then on Monday, I've been invited to provide testimony to the National Committee of Public Safety and National Security on the topic. So we're continuing hard with the advocacy and really working hard to fill all of the gaps that we've identified that are making this such a profitable and easy and certainly dangerous crime for our community. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. There are a couple of questions, so we'll keep with this. But one point I want to make as well, we discussed earlier today, following the initiative on the 20th, the summit that we're going to have, I've invited you folks, as my other chairs had here for the region of Peel, to come 2 days later to our regional council meeting on the 22nd, Thursday, to give us an update on how the summit went. And that in large part is, as you know, we had a pretty hefty increase on the police budget. I commend my council for supporting it unanimously. And this shows them what we're doing with the resources that have been allocated. So ironically, I turn to Mayor Brown next because he's just been at the vanguard of this file. So over to Member Brown.
Thank you, Chair Nika. And thank you, Chief Nish and Deputy Milovich, for your incredible leadership. How nice it is for us to hear that all the other chiefs and law enforcement agencies are looking to Peel as sort of the subject matter expert. The Port of Montreal is not in your jurisdiction. Yeah. Our deputy chief went to the Port of Montreal to show them, to educate them how this was the leak in the bucket. That is tremendous leadership. Not in your jurisdiction. Stepping up because it's affecting our residents, but the work you're doing is going to help everyone across Ontario and Quebec. We get complaints, and people, Councillor Mahoney will hear it too, where they think it's just in their neighborhood. And I've got friends across the GTA or now across Ontario, and they think, oh, in my city it's so horrible. It's horrible everywhere. It's not a Brampton problem, not a Mississauga problem, not a Caledon problem, not a Toronto problem. It's everywhere because it's so easy. One stat I heard at that conference, 2022, $1.2 billion in auto thefts. 2023 will be even higher. What type of crime in our region is that supporting? If you could maybe just share that for board members, because they spoke about the type of crime this is funding, and for me, that was an unintended consequence. I didn't realize the type of nefarious activity that this is now a revenue source for.
Thank you, and through the chair, it is a revenue source for organized crime. It is, right in the same bucket as our top three funders of organized crime. You have fraud, you have drugs and firearms, and now you have autos. And of course, it funnels money back to our community, but the recipient of the large majority of proceeds is organized crime at the national and international level. I'm certain of that. And, I'll offer a stat, and I offer it for perspective really twofold. One, to inform some of the changes that have been made because of the advocacy and attention to the issue that we've created here. but also to support the idea that it's funding organized crime on a national and international level. Recently, we have regular conversations with our partners at the federal level, RCMP, and Mayor Brown, yourself, and the chief would have heard at the summit discussion from the RCMP that they were going to begin uploading all of the stolen vehicles to Interpol. So this began 7 days ago. Since that time, there's been 100,000 vehicles that have been uploaded to Interpol. This is, for those that don't know, a system that allows law enforcement officials, really internationally, to do queries on either people or vehicles. As a result of that, they have had 194 vehicles in the last 7 days that have been identified as stolen from Canada.
Wow.
So again, it's a great success story because without the attention to the issue, that doesn't happen. But it also supports the fact that it is a national and international issue. In 7 days, 194 vehicles, if you place a value on that.
Well, this sort of leads me to my next question is, we have momentum right now. Peel has initiated momentum to help solve auto thefts in Canada and where this goes next. 2 years ago, we met with the Minister of Public Safety. I left a little bit disheartened. You were there. It was a Mississauga Community Center. We pulled him aside. He promised us 5 minutes. We told him it was a crisis. It was going to get worse. And he said, we're laser focused on guns. And I remember you telling that minister, what do you think this funds? What do you think stolen vehicles is funding? There's a new approach with Dominic LeBlanc. I have to say, I felt encouraged. He seems to want to listen. He seems to want to be collaborative. This is a new tone. And we should grab that, embrace it, and hold their feet to the fire. And just like the board had some advocacy, and maybe to the chair or to the chief, one thing that came out of this that I think would be a game changer is that they announced that funding for the scanners. We scan less than 1% in Canada of the shipping containers, 45% in the U.S. I understand these scanners cost about $3.5 million. They announced $27 million over 3 years. You do the math. They need 4 scanners probably at the Port of Montreal. We could probably use one at the intermodal hub in Brampton, maybe in Vaughan too. How do we make, the calls I get, everyone's saying, when is it going to stop? When is it going to get better? And as many officers as you add to the auto theft unit, I don't think I can confidently say it's going to get better until we get those scanners. So what can we do? Would a motion requesting from this board, requesting a timeline when the scanners are going to be installed at the Port of Montreal and our intermodal hub in Peel? And is there anything that would be more disruptive to this criminal enterprise than if we got scanners there? And I know you feel helpless. I hear stories, people saying, I called the police. I've gone to the intermodal hub. I see my car there, and you don't have jurisdiction. So would that be helpful if we did that as a board, requested a timeline for when the scanners are going to be installed? I just worry that if they put one scanner in each port where it may not be necessary, this isn't going to work. We're not going to see progress. What can we do as a board to push the next necessary step?
And Nick, I'll invite you to top this up, but you've heard me, any investment along the ecosystem of auto theft is helpful, whether it be at the front end with us investigating it, at the exit points at the ports. The reality is our intermodals are part of that ecosystem, and in the absence of any sort of emphasis there, whether it be equipment or human resources, because, Mr. Boughton, you know very well, the machine itself is one thing, but it's going to need resources alongside of it. We don't have, as a police or jurisdiction at those places, which is what frustrates the public. I know they expect us to go and walk in and get that. It requires judicial, but CBSA has a different ability to do that. So there's dialogue. Any attention to those spaces, in our view, it's something, it's pinching the hose, right? And so, if the board felt it was something to emphasize, we would, as a police service, and I'm sure my colleague, Chief McSween, probably feels the same in York, would probably advocate for that. And, Nick, maybe you might want to top that up.
No, thank you, Chief. I think you've done a good job of explaining it. The scanners, the equipment to make the job of inspections is really, really important, as is the staff and jurisdiction to run and operate those two. So I see them in tandem with one another. And, really the question is very simple. And from my perspective, I think our ability to begin to affect it is also very simple. We need people from whether it be CBSA or police officers who, through a change in legislation, do have jurisdiction or the ability inspecting containers at our ports or at our intermodal. And they should be well equipped and well resourced to do that. The questions we should be asking are, how many inspections are being done at those for stolen autos? How many recoveries are we making? You know, and it's a really old saying, what you inspect, you get. So like advocacy towards staffing at any of those places and equipment, absolutely would make a difference and make it more difficult to get vehicles out of this country.
So if I could suggest maybe while there's other questions that I could work with the always eloquent Rob Serpe to draft a motion where we say, whereas the police don't have jurisdiction, that the scanners are critical for us to disrupt the supply chain of stolen cars, and that we'd like to see a expedited timetable announced for when the scanners will arrive at the intermodal hubs and the port. And Rob can find a more eloquent way to write that, and while there's other questions. And if we have the agreement of the board, I think that would be helpful as a next step on advocacy.
Thank you. And we do have a moment, a few more questions, and we'll bring that back to the chair. Next up is Al Boughton, please.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. Deputy, when you were in Montreal, you opened 72 containers and found 110 vehicles, correct? When you were there?
That is correct.
Randomly opened 72 containers and found 110 vehicles. That's a pretty staggering number. And well, it's, as they said in Montreal, the problem's your problem, not their problem, correct? That's what they had told you?
They felt that we should be doing a better job of preventing the vehicles from getting there.
Yeah, that was very nice of them to do that. The Commander Kearns had indicated on a car theft earlier that they apprehended this young man. He was under 18 years of age, so obviously he's being groomed by somebody or some organization, to steal cars. And they're getting them younger, fair to say. When they get these offenders who are stealing the cars and you catch them, how quickly are they released from the system? They're out on bail right away, I'm assuming.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables to that. Obviously age, whether or not they're a young offender makes a difference, previous record, but I couldn't say that anytime we arrest a person for carjacking and they're released that we're surprised by it. We have in Peel alone hundreds of people who are on release with GPS bracelets. And for some incredibly violent offenses who aren't young offenders.
Okay.
And anecdotally, I have heard we have had issues where a person has been arrested and charged with theft of a vehicle, released, walked across the parking lot with their property bag, and done a carjacking in the parking lot of the court.
Absolutely. That's brilliant, isn't it, Deputy? Let me just throw something else out there, and to you, Your Worship, that if you look at the X-ray equipment that was available at the border, and I'll give you an example from my time in the industry, they could X-ray a trailer or a container coming over, somebody's moving from the United States into Canada, and they could detect that they had guns hidden under the back seat of the personal vehicle that was inside that container, right? Because Americans wanted to bring their guns out. That X-ray process is not fast. That becomes the issue. At what level do you X-ray? You're just running them through to see if there's a vehicle on the inside or vehicles that don't match the bill of lading. That's really what you want to accomplish. Is that fair to say, Deputy?
Absolutely.
Okay. And so that could be a faster approach if the equipment was there. At the summit coming up, I think we need to be, as a board, we need to be a little tougher on the questions that we ask, and we need to get better answers from the Manufacturers Association, who did not answer the questions last time, particularly as it relates to disabling devices and voiding the warranty. If you put the disabling device in, we've got to get the manufacturers on side to say, we're trying to get people to put prevention in their vehicle, and then the manufacturer saying, we're going to void your warranty on your $100,000 car. So what would you do? You'd say, well, I want the warranty, so I won't put it in. We have our chair here who used a tag system, had his car stolen 7 hours, had it back. We really need to make sure that people understand there is some technology that's available, but we need the Manufacturers Association to deal with it as well. Somebody steals your phone, guess what? They don't get into your phone. Why do they get into your car? And the last thing I'd like to say, if we're better, we, our society, are better at stopping the cars from being stolen, I'll tell you what the next step will be. It will be more carjackings. If you can't steal from the driveway when people are sleeping, you're going to go to the plaza, and that's becomes the carjackings. And I believe that'll be the next step, and we better have our eyes on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to top that one up, Al, because it speaks to your very, very point. I did have my vehicle stolen. Very unusual circuit that speaks to everything that you've said that confounds me as well. So the vehicle that I had is our personal vehicle. I have a corporate car that's 4 years newer. I've wanted to install the tag system on that. The lessees won't allow me to. But my private vehicle, so I leave the corporate car in the garage so that they can steal my car and not the taxpayer's car. The reason we got my car back is, and I want to give them a shout out because it speaks to your point, I got a letter when it became my car from Desjardins Insurance. I want to give them a shout out because they should be proud. I understand you become the new owner of this 4-year-old vehicle. It's on the list of a highly stolen. We will pay to have you put a tag on your car. Please go to Speedy Auto Glass. I went, had all the documentation, took 45 minutes. My car was stolen 10 days later, fortuitously. Called the insurance. They go, please sure to call the police. Between them, they go, we'll ping your car, but it's probably on its way to Montreal. Ping to the car. They go, no, it's parked in Brampton. And the police said, well, you're lucky. It's in our jurisdiction. Let's go have a look. They took it. This is the next point I want to come back to Mayor Brown. They took my car at 12:15 Saturday morning. I live at the end of a cul-de-sac. Kind of busy sometimes at 12 o'clock midnight on a Saturday night. And yet these brazen individuals showed up, and people are coming and going from event. They could have cared less, and they took the car. They didn't notice that it was tagged because I guess it was dark, and that's why they parked it. To come full circle, I get back to the office. I go, the system works. I will tag the taxpayer's car that's leased, and the lessee, no, you're not allowed to. Don't touch our car. I go, I'll pay for it. So something's wrong, Al, to your very, very point, because the system works and we're just trying to do the right thing. We need them to step up and do the right thing. The other point, and Mayor Brown might want to come back on the list because he's really spoken to this, the brazenness. So the car I'll get back, or I won't get back, or it's insured. They're banging down people's doors with guns now, and the mayor's spoken to that, and he may come back to that piece of it as well. But I'll carry on my list. Mr. Attia.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just for clarity, I fully support, everything to do whatever we can to address auto thefts. I'd like clarity on these scanners. These scanners would exist at hubs or ports where there are shipments happening. Who operates these scanners? It's not our service, is it? And so when you talk about resources needed to operate them, are we advocating for resources for another agency? What exactly are we speaking about here?
We certainly are. I think the equipment is roughly 3 to 3.5 million per scanner, and at the ports, in the current paradigm, it would be either a port authority if it's at the Port of Montreal, or the Canadian Border Services Agency that would have to have the capacity to do that, unless there was a deferred authority to the police of jurisdiction or in another model, which we don't have. We're not the ones to dictate that, but it would need resourcing, which clearly there's an absence of on top of the equipment.
Yeah, and maybe just to complement what the chief had mentioned, we require people there to run the equipment and direct which containers should be scanned. Unfortunately, currently as it sits, no CBSA resources or personnel there with jurisdiction to do that. And we aren't in a position legally, because it's not our jurisdiction to do that. So there either needs to be changes to allow us to, or there needs to be changes to staffing at those spaces.
And so I think what I'm hearing the message is, for levels of government who have the funding, it's not just about throwing equipment. we need the people to run them. And are those agencies or that operate these sports, are they advocating for the same thing, or or is it us advocating and then
I think
dynamic?
this is another part of what we've been trying to do is encourage that it become a mandate, and the mandate needs resourcing. So, I think the CBSA individuals that we do work with are really remarkable. But they're not resourced, they're not mandated, and there are clearly other national priorities, whether it be export or otherwise. So, part of the equation is making it a priority for that to happen at a federal level, which has been echoed a few times.
Ahmed, thank you. Councillor Mahoney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and great conversation. As a new board member, it's really great to hear all of the great things that are going on. I think it's extremely important that we continue to talk about it. Specifically, want to congratulate Mayor Brown and thank him for his advocacy as well as the police, because I think Patrick has done a great job of really elevating this in the public level and the public forum. So I think it's important. Just wanted to lend my voice to saying we need to continue to talk about this, and I'm certainly happy, Mr. Chair, to second Mayor Brown's motion. But all of the great work that we're talking about here, I really do think needs to be elevated and brought out to the public forum. We need to talk about this. The more we talk about it, the more resources that we potentially do have coming in. And you need to brag. We need to talk about all the good things in the leadership. I know, Nick, you've been, on the news. You've been a leader on this file, and I want to congratulate you on it. But again, as a new board member sitting around here and the information I'm getting, I think it's extremely important that we really get this out to people. So I thank you all for all of your work. And again, happy to second the motion. And Mayor Brown, thank you for your advocacy on behalf of Regional Council, and I think it's important too, Mississauga and Brampton coming together as councils to take this leadership. So happy to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Al, did you have one quick point?
Yes, thank you, Chair. When you go to the airport and you're flying to the U.S. and you use Nexus, right? Or you're in U.S. and you're coming back and it's TSA you're going through, right? You're special and you've made the commitment to not break the law. In Canada, with customers like Canadian Tire, Walmart, carriers like Maritime Ontario, and Michael Landlauer's company that moves all the drugs and all that, this is with a FAST program where no entity shouldn't be going through for the inspection. So if we have 3,000 that are outbound, we don't need the Canadian Tires and these high level, and we don't need to scan any of those. I'm going to guarantee you 100% you'll never find anything wrong with them because they inspect them. They put the seals on, they do all that. So the 3,000, that number drops down in a hurry to it's almost like Ma and Pa trucking company that isn't known, and those are the containers that need to be scanned, and the eyes that need to be on them. It's not the big shippers that are using them. So there is a path forward, Deputy. I think you would agree that we don't need to look at all of them, but we need to look at the ones that we know are suspect that aren't being shipped by the big box retailers, etc.
Thank you. Final thought on that? Go ahead, please.
Absolutely. And, I would double down on that fact. So thousands and thousands of containers you'll hear often are exported daily. My question is, well, how many are going to source countries? How many are going to the countries that we know we're getting queries from? So you're very quickly able to diminish that number to a more manageable and almost with 100% certainty identify containers that should be scanned or searched.
What I'm going to do is this, take another moment to put that together. Chief, you're going to carry on with your updates. You have other matters. And then when we're done with the Chief's update, Mayor Brown, I'll come back to you to introduce your motion, please, that Councillor Mahoney will second. Chief, please carry on with your update.
Thank you, Chair. And quite appropriately, our discussion has been about what Regional Council's budget and the board's budget has done to equip us. One of the other pressure points, and not to dwell on the pressures that we're seeing, has been our 911 call center, the delays that the community has heard. And we are pleased to be able to provide an update on a significant investment. It's a big project, but it is intended to address some of the pressures and move us along in a way that has not been done anywhere else in Canada. So Deputy O'Doherty, can you please update on NG 911?
Thanks, Chief, and through the chair. On February 21st, overnight, Peel Regional Police, which is one of the largest public safety answering points, in fact, in North America, but certainly in Canada, was the first large PSAP to launch Next Generation 911. And I've been talking about this at board meetings for quite some time. And it was a road to the implementation of Next Generation and the support from the board, which will allow us through that implementation of this significant technology to address things like wait times on 911, misuse, call hangups. In fact, this morning, there's a feature on Next Generation 911 that automatically calls back hangups, which, as you have been aware, is a serious problem here in Peel Region, to the tune of 5 full-time members calling back 911 calls equivalency per month. So as the team, and I should mention the women and men in communications who have undergone just a significant amount of change in the last 3 years as part of an overall strategy to modify operations in our PSAP center. And when I mean significant amount of change, they have gone through 2 massive technology changes, personnel changes, hiring, retention, and certainly a very thoughtful culture strategy. This is a significant piece that will alleviate some of the pressures that we see today in Peel Region, specifically around call wait times. And we're hoping that in about 2 months, it's going to take about 2 or 3 weeks to get used to the technology, but in about 2 months, we'll be able to report numbers that will look on the right side of call wait times. And just once again, a special thank you to the project team, who is now being sought after across North America for the implementation for this mandated technology. And just one last point before I turn it back over. The CRTC mandated that Next Generation 911 technology be implemented by March 2025. So Peel Regional Police is 1 year ahead of that and ready to take on the tsunami of data that is going to be coming our way in the next few years. Thank you.
Questions on that, Al?
I talked to Deputy Chief O'Duarty last night. We had a conversation through you, Chair, and wanted to congratulate you and their whole team. What a fantastic job done. I knew it was coming. I didn't realize it was coming on the 21st of February. As you know, I did a shift in December at the Communications Center, blown away by the professionalism of the people. And the NG911 made the global national news last night. And that's why I'd called the deputy to to congratulate you and your whole team on it. And to watch the way they are clearing those bad calls is incredible. And, you just continue to do great work on it. So proud of what you've done. And as for them coming after your people, if Austin Matthews was a free agent, I think there'd be a lot of people coming after him as well. But your team has been terrific on it. Thank you for your work. And I know it's a bit of a bugaboo for the mayor about the bad calls and what we're going to do. And if you would continue to update us, and I call it the 4 areas: hardware, software, facility, and the people that you have. And I noticed driving down Mississauga Road yesterday, there's steel going up for our new communication center, and that's going to be pretty exciting for you as well. So what a great job. So proud of the entire team. Deputy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Carby.
Thank you, Chair. I certainly want to add my voice in congratulating PRP on being leaders in this point. I took the opportunity to share a note of congratulations via email, and I wanted to just read some of what I had shared into the record here for the public. So huge congratulations to PRP for the remarkable achievement on being the first large PSAP in Canada to transition to the Next Generation 911. This specific milestone underscores your unwavering commitment to embracing cutting-edge technology and advancing public safety services in our community. By adopting NG911, PRP has demonstrated exceptional leadership and vision in revolutionizing emergency service and response. ultimately enhancing public safety and well-being for the residents in Peel. They pioneer efforts, serve as an inspiration to PSAPs across the country, showcasing the transformative impact of embracing technology and innovation in emergency communication infrastructure. Moreover, your dedication to staying in the forefront of advancing this public safety affirms PRP position as a trusted guardian in our community. Once again, congratulations to the team, and I hope we don't lose any of our good people. I have an IT background, and I know what it is whenever you are the first to do something, they come after. So let's make sure that we can keep our guys. And I want to hear a little bit more about the tsunami of data that is now going to be received, and maybe in the next meeting, we'll talk a little bit about how we plan to manage that amount of data, and do we have the infrastructure for it. Thanks again, and congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Attia.
Congratulations, Deputy. I know you've been working on this for several years. You mentioned right now that you recently turned on a feature where the system will do the callbacks to hang-ups. Can you give us, can you explain or share what that experience will be like for a resident of Peel?
Certainly, and thank you. And through the chair, one of the features of Next Generation 911 allows a technology where when the computer identifies that a call has been dropped, prior to February 21st, a call taker would, at an appropriate time, depending on surge calls, and in this region happens quite often, call back the 911 number that's been registered. And of course, that takes quite a bit of time. With the new technology, as soon as a call is dropped, and as a public service announcement, if you've called 911 in error, just stay on the line so that we can confirm at the first instance. But the new technology will automatically call back that number and or send a text message to confirm that the person had called 911 and is okay. Now, there's variances of that where we will continue to call and ensure that the caller in these particular cases are okay, but the technology identifies when it's those appropriate calls. Amongst other pieces, that splits the queue for emergency and non-emergency calls to allow a human being then to address the emergency calls right at its first moment, and the non-emergency calls in a priority order.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Carry on.
Thank you, Chair, and I thank you for the board for the indulgence. The time we have to do public updates operationally, I know, eat into the formal agenda, but I think it's critical to use the platform for us to speak to issues that are, you know, all of you here and we do here. So both Deputy DePatt and Andrews have one. We know that everything to shift to everything geopolitical that's impacting us locally has had an impact on our communities, particularly with the fear of hate. We know at this week's board meeting for the GHR committee, we've heard about hate incidents. We have an opportunity to continue to shift from the dialogue of innovation to, you know, thoughtfulness and responsiveness. So, Deputy DePatt, if you'd be pleased to speak to the hate crimes update.
Thank you, Chief, and through the chair, good morning, board. The board will recall that in previous meetings, we've had some deputations, presentations from others that speak to the work that we're doing when it comes to how we investigate and support our community when a hate crime or a hate incident happens. During some of those meetings, one of the suggestions was for us to consider an online reporting tool. And the board will recall that we took it back to the team, and the concerns that we had was we were very proud of the way that we devoted resources and the level of a response when a hate crime or a hate incident happened. And we didn't want to dilute or diminish the way that we responded if we implemented an innovative tool that would make it easier for a community to report it, but at the end of the day, might impact the level of a response that the investigation would require. I'm happy to report that on March 26th, we will be launching a new online hate crime and hate incident reporting tool. This tool has taken into consideration from feedback from the community that we've been working very closely with to ensure that when a hate crime or a hate incident is reported, that there is a process that will vet the level of responsiveness from absolute, we should respond right away emergency, or one where a follow-up would be conducted by a police officer at another time. Not only does this benefit the person that is reporting the crime and incident, but the aim is also to alleviate the pressures that Deputy Oduwardi had just mentioned when it comes to our communication centers and the amount of calls that go through there. I just want to assure the board and the community that when they do report hate crimes and incidents, we want to encourage them to do so, and that we take all of it at the most serious level, and we'll have further updates once it's launched on March 26th.
Thank you, Chair. And for our last update, as the board knows, we still have a lot of our resources oriented to violent crimes in our community. I can say from 2022 to 2023, we saw an 18% reduction in the number of firearms shootings, reported shootings. However, the number of the egregiousness of them still continue to be out front, and there are victims still regularly involved. And Deputy Andrews has an update on some of the remarkable work of our officers in investigating them for a high-profile one.
Thank you, Chief. Through the chair, I'd like to update the board on Project Darien. Project Darien stems from a December 10th shooting that took place at the Jungle nightclub, 1325 Eglinton Avenue. Some of you will recall that was a week before the homicide that occurred at that same location. That shooting initiated a project by 12 Division investigative team that were able to, through some remarkable police work and working with the CFS, the Center for Forensic Science, we were able to connect that shooting to 3 other shootings, 2 in the city of Mississauga and 1 in the city of Brampton. As a result of the investigative work done by the team, on February 14th, we were able to execute 4 search warrants. We arrested 4 individuals, laid a total of 21 charges, including 2 counts of attempt murder. We seized 2 firearms and numerous different types of ammunition. Also, and I think to speak to Mayor Brown's point and Deputy Milinovich's point earlier, during those search warrants, we seized master keys, numerous master keys, programmers, and other specific computer hardware that is related to auto theft. The connectivity here between auto theft and violent crime and the funding aspect is obvious. Subject to any questions from the board, I just want to leave the board with the thought that we are responding to violent crime, but the connectivity between the different types of crime are obvious, and it's none of them happens in isolation.
Mr. Attia.
Through the chair, I actually had a question on the online hate. I can hold if anyone
No, just
has.
wait. Anybody else on that subject? If not, thank you. Back to you on the.
Okay, Deputy Chief, thank you. I was just curious how, is it when someone reports through the website, is that automatically a police report, or is there a process before a police report is created?
Thank you. It's automatically reported if the elements that are through the process while they're vetting it, the prompts outline exactly what is being reported. If it requires follow-up or further information, a police officer will be contacting the person who entered into the system for further clarification.
Okay, thank you. And as you mentioned, we've heard this from many communities about, the need to, hate crimes are underreported and we need to give people How are we going to communicate this to the residents of Peel and different communities?
Beyond corporate communications that will come out through the organization, we are we have very close ties with the community through various committees, the engagement that we do through community safety and well-being. And in fact, on March 19th, we're launching the Countering Hate Crime instructional component that was funded through a federal grant, where we were working with 16 individual community partners that informed how we would report hate crimes, how the community would discern the difference between what a hate crime or a hate incident is, and then what the mechanism is to report it to the police.
Thank you, Chair, and that'll be the end of our operational updates.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to double back then to Mayor Brown to present and to speak to your motion.
Yes, I believe we have a motion drafted. If Rob can read it out.
Sure, thank you. And through you, Chair, the following motion is presented for the board's consideration. Whereas municipal police services in Canada currently lack jurisdiction over security operations at national ports of entry and intermodal facilities, which are critical junctures in the fight against auto theft, and whereas the effectiveness of police services in combating such crimes is directly correlated to the availability of sufficient resources, it is therefore resolved that the Peel Police Service Board formally requests that the federal government provide both funding and establish an expedited timeline in 2024 for the implementation of advanced container scanning technology at all Canadian ports of entry and intermodal facilities. This action is urgently sought to bolster our national security infrastructure, therefore significantly aiding in the reduction of auto thefts and enhancing the overall safety and security of our communities.
The only slight edit I'd suggest, looking to Nick for guidance, is maybe it shouldn't say all ports of entry. It should say vulnerable ports of entry, because I guess not all ports are the same right now in Canada. Is that fair?
That would be fair.
I have the motion as moved by Mayor Brown, seconded by Councillor Mahoney. Speakers to the motion, Atia.
Do you think we should include language around mandate, not just equipment and resources, that there be a mandate for these agencies to, because the chief spoke about, did I understand correctly? Like that, federally, there needs to be a mandate to hold them accountable for.
I think that would be a fair and probably valuable addition, of course, deferring to the board, but it would be nice to have that very formally established as a mandate issue for them.
The only wrinkle that comes to mind, not necessarily disagreeing, we are mandated by the region of Peel, by Peel residents. They're mandated by the federal government. I'm always leery of telling other government, we're on a peer-to-peer level reaching out. But Mayor Brown, I'm in your hands.
And, I would maybe add to that is when we did go to the summit, we've included that and have continued to advocate for changes to mandate letters for CBSA. So, they've heard it multiple times.
Patrick, I'm in your hands.
I would just say, if the CBSA has added their mandate, great. But I don't think we're. I defer to the chief. I don't think we're generally attached to one proposal. If they said we're going to fund local police to do it as part of your mandate, then that would be, as long as it's being done. If it's OPP doing it, if it's CBSA, if there's a special. Even last week, the minister said in a press conference he might create. There's a question that response was maybe they create a separate police force to deal with the ports. However they do it, I don't think we need to specify who does it as long as it's happening.
And through the chair, just may I offer the board, out of our upcoming summit, there will be multiple other recommendations which the board might find an opportunity to advocate for if it assists with just keeping this resolution more focused. We can probably turn to the other ones at a later point.
Well discussed. You have the motion before you. Any other speakers to the motion? Is anybody opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you all. Very well done. Okay, Chief, no further updates at your end. So that brings me to board member questions and announcements. Do I have any? I see. Sorry, Councillor Mahoney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm going to play the new guy card again. Not sure if this is appropriate at this time, but couldn't let the opportunity pass without personally thanking Peel Regional Police and specifically Deputy Chief Andrews for hosting a town hall last night in Mississauga. So this was an opportunity for all residents of Mississauga to come forward. I think there was 10 officers at the front bench who gave presentations on crime prevention, talked about all the concerning issues residents have across the city and the region, and also gave an opportunity for the residents to ask unfiltered questions to the police, and they did a tremendous job. some tough questions, but they handled it very well. And I think it's a great opportunity for residents to connect with our police, with our police service, and really encourage those to continue, because I think it was extremely well received by the residents of Mississauga. And I, again, would love to see these opportunities, continue. And I know they have in the past, but really just want to take the opportunity to thank you here publicly for your efforts on that. And again, very well received and very appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carby.
Thank you, Chair. In the absence of our GHR Committee Chair, who is unavoidably absent today, I thought I would just mention thank you to the public for the members who showed up at our consultation meeting on February the 20th. We had, I think, 5 deputations ranging on a whole bunch of subjects. Again, thank you for our leadership team from PRP who were there. And these sessions are always listening sessions, not intended primarily to confront or to ask too many questions of the individuals who are presenting, but more for us to hear from them. And one thing I noted was that many of the recommendations are aligned with the recommendations coming out of ARAC and the Ontario Human Rights Project. So what it's telling me is that the work that is being done on that Human Rights Project is moving in the direction that is aligning with public sentiment. So again, thank you to the members of the public who showed up and participated in those consultations February 20th.
Thank you. Do I have anything further from members? Seeing none. That deals with more member questions and announcements. I now move on then to item number 1, approval of the minutes. Minutes of the board meeting held Friday, January 26, that they be adopted as moved by Mayor Brown, seconded by Mr. Attia. Anybody opposed? That is carried. Thank you. On to deputations. Peel Crime Stoppers. Deputation from Mr. Imran Hassan, Chair, Peel Crime Stoppers, regarding an update on the ongoing work of the Peel Crime Stoppers program. Imran, welcome. A reminder, as all deputations, you have 5 minutes, please. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you so much, Chair Inika, Chief, Your Worship, respected members of the Peel Police Services Board, our Chief Management Group. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I just want to start off by saying congratulations to my good friend Matt Mahoney for being appointed to the board. I know you're going to do some great work here representing the City of Mississauga. I also would like to take this opportunity to recognize Angela, who's doing some heavy lifting behind the scenes with her team to bring programs like this and initiatives together. So thank you so much. We're back to provide you just a little bit of an overview from the statistics of 2022 and 2023 and some of the activities that Peel Crime Stoppers has been involved with throughout the year. I bring greetings on behalf of the board of Peel Crime Stoppers, and today I'm accompanied with my vice chair, Harry Pedwell. So in our agenda today, we're going to just provide a brief overview of who we are, what we do, how we do it, the community impact that we make, and we're going to make an ask. So the program started in 1976 in the United States in Albuquerque, New Mexico, by a Canadian-born police officer who needed help solving a crime. In 1997, that program was born in Peel, and it is a community-led volunteer organization. None of our board members are paid, and we don't have any dedicated staff. That's something that should be noted. We do have 37 chapters of Crime Stoppers in Ontario, and 87 chapters across Canada and over 1,700 chapters worldwide. So we aid the police in preventing and solving crimes. We also promote community safety and security awareness in the public, and we focus on strengthening relationships between the police and our first responders communities and the public. So the anonymous tip line is a call center that's independent of 911. Many in the public don't realize that, and that it is funded through fundraising efforts that are made throughout the course of the year by each and every individual chapter of Crime Stoppers, and the resources are pooled together to pay for that call center. And then we also have crime prevention and public safety messages that we disseminate throughout the course of the year, and we do that through various means. We have digital media, obviously our website and social media. And what's unique to the PO Crime Stoppers program is, to our knowledge, we're the only program in Ontario and in Canada that has a radio show. So every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock on Saga 960, we have a 1-hour episode in which we talk about community safety tips to the public. And of course, any of the literature that we're publishing, that's also included in our marketing budget that we do go out into the community and we fundraise. And then community engagements and initiatives are initiatives and events that we put on throughout the course of the year. So any event space or any promotional materials that we have to ascertain and distribute are, again, something that we raise throughout the year through generous sponsorships and donations from the public. So we do this through collaborations. I think that's a word that's been used throughout the course of today, and I think it's something that needs to continue to be stressed. We can't not do this alone. We need the support of our partners at Peel Regional Police, our partners at PRPA, as well as the public and the media. That's how this program is made effective. And again, we don't have any dedicated staff, and we don't have any sustainable funding from the public.
Just a little bit, I guess, about our anonymous tip line. The number in our site is there. People are able to report crimes across the spectrum, and the whole thing about that program is it's completely anonymous. So while we talked earlier about the 911 line, this is the option that is available primarily to individuals who want to be anonymous, but also it's really well used. To our knowledge, is really well used by minority communities within Peel Region who are not comfortable in approaching the police with their tips.
So some of the collaborations that we have undertaken throughout the course of the last few years. We've been working with schools, retirement centers, places of worship, different associations, including businesses and membership associations, service organizations, and cultural clubs, and social clubs and sports clubs. So you see a representation of some of the branding of the organizations that we're dealing with, but that is just the tip of the iceberg. If you go to our website, peelcrimestoppers.ca, and you go under community partners, you'll see there's a very long list of community partners, and we'd need far more than 5 minutes to go through that presentation alone. So some of our community engagements we've talked about throughout the course of the year include the annual Lions Farmers Market. We do provide volunteers to be there and just provide community safety messages. We do an annual seniors initiative where we're providing safety tips. Last year we did it through the form of a game show that was hosted by our good friend Anwar Knight at Square One Shopping Center, and it was attended by seniors who asked questions of first responders, and it was a very strong engagement. We do fun stuff like car washes and document shredding fundraisers where we're engaging the public and always putting our first responders in a non-emergency environment with the public to humanize that relationship, to make sure that people understand that our police, fire, and paramedic personnel are our neighbors, they're our friends, they're people in our community who are moms, dads, uncles, aunts, and all beings.
Imran, you're just getting past 5 minutes. Why don't you take another minute to wrap up?
Appreciate that. Thank you. And so I just want to move on to the next slide. Some of the areas that we help prevent and solve is we talked about the 911 call center. I believe the toll-free line at 1-800-222-TIPS helps to alleviate non-emergency calls to the 911 call center. We talked extensively about auto theft. I think it's clear to say that there are many people who are reluctant to report directly to the police because of the fear of reprisal from organized crime. So therefore, they can report anonymously through Crime Stoppers. We've talked about extortion, scams, human trafficking, something that is unfortunately happening and on the rise and right under our noses, but sometimes we don't see it. And a host of other crimes, including Ahmed, you talked about hate crimes, and hate crimes do go underreported because of that reason, because of the fear of reprisal. And people need to know that they can report anonymously. And I think Crime Stoppers is an integral tool that can be used in the in helping police to prevent and solve these crimes. I'm going to quickly provide the stats from 2022 and 2023. We won't go into the details, but I will summarize it by saying that telephone tips were increased by 10%, online tips went up by 17%, and arrests were up 100%. And this is in light of, in 2023, we suspended our rewards program. So we no longer offer rewards in Peel Region, and that followed suit of what Toronto did 3 years ago when they also suspended their rewards program. So clearly, people are not reporting for the incentive of the monetary reward. It's for doing the right thing. So what we're asking for is a memorandum of understanding. It's something that we have been working with PRP, and I think we're in the close sort of final steps of putting that together. We talked about different initiatives that happened throughout the course of the year that, are undertaken and led by Peel Police. I believe, Peel Crime Stoppers should have a seat at that table, whether it's community engagements that Matt talked about that occurred just yesterday, or other consultations that, Len talked about earlier, and maybe the Auto Theft Summit that's coming up that's, something that we could also play an integral role. People need to know in the public that they can contact Crime Stoppers anonymously and that they're protected by informer privilege. And one thing that other Crime Stoppers programs have, Chief, being in Halton before coming here, and the deputies know as well, is a vehicle, something that is donated by the service to the Crime Stoppers program to help amplify the message. It's in Durham, it's in York, it's in Toronto, it's in all other jurisdictions. We just haven't seen that return here in Peel. It was something that was provided in the past, and I'd like to see that come back. And finally, we talk about co-branding. And there are business cards that we've seen with Peel Regional Police information on the front and on the back of it. Some of them say Crime Stoppers, some of them don't. I think there should be some consistency in that. Whether it's, I know we've talked through Deputy DePatt about implementing the Crime Stoppers number on the, I think it's called crime scene tape or the emergency tape. So that is happening. So these are some of the steps forward that we do see coming, and there are some other areas that we certainly need to work on. So community safety is a shared responsibility, and I wanted to thank this board and our police service, the chief, his management group, and our association, and all the members who are continuing to risk their lives to ensure the safety of the public. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And we have questions. Councillor Mahoney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you both for the presentation. A lot of great work done. I certainly appreciate it. Do know a little bit about Crime Stoppers. I know there were some asks there. I don't want to keep playing the new guy card, but I'm wondering if I could ask Rob to kind of, if we could send this back so I could get a better understanding as to how all of this works and how it kind of lays out, as opposed to us making a decision now. So that would be my request to the board, that we kind of send this back and get a document that we can better understand it. So thanks, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Attia.
I noticed you had p3tips.com on your slide, and I visited it to see what it's like to make a tip. I was curious what percentage of the tips are calls versus online.
I'm not sure if in that slide, Emmett, that information was available. We're just going to quickly go back to it. And it's not here, but I can certainly get that information. Oh, sorry, it's there.
Is it on the left there? Oh, I didn't notice that. Yeah, thank you. That's the increase. Okay.
The volume of tips and the increase in the tips.
Yeah, online tips is about halfway down.
Oh, yes, I see that now.
Tips.
Okay, thank you.
Happy to answer any other questions.
I think that's it. With that, I'm going to ask for receipt of the deputation from Councillor Mahoney, seconded by Attia. All those in favor, carry. Thank you. Thank you very much for your efforts.
Thank you so much.
Okay, moving on. Members, we have no presentations, so I just have some reports here as new business here just for receipt and any questions you may have. The first one that I have is item 4, collection of identifying information in certain circumstances, report dated January 10, 2024 by Deputy Chief Edwardi, Innovation and Technology Command, providing the board with statistics for the collection of identifying information in certain circumstances. Here for receipt. Don't know if the team wants to top that up or go right to questions.
Just to mention that there were no collections made in 23, and therefore all the subcategories were entered as zero as well. Thank you.
If there are no questions, to be moved. It's been moved by Mr. Attia, seconded by Mr. Boughton. All those in favor? That has been received. Item number 5, missing persons, urgent demand reporting 2023, report dated January 18, 24, from Deputy Chief Milinovich, investigating an emergency services command, providing the board with the data for the missing persons urgent demand reporting for 2023. Again, anything you would like to add at this time before I go to any questions?
Nothing, Chair.
Do I have any questions from no members of the committee then? So it will be moved by Mr. Brown, Mayor Brown, seconded by Mr. Carby. Anybody opposed? That is carried. Item number 6, extension of the 2020 11-2T for the supply of duty and training ammunition. Report dated January 4, 2024, from the Deputy Chief DePat, Community Safety and Wellbeing Command, providing the board with the request for an extension for the supply of duty, training, and ammunition. There is a recommendation there. Any questions at this time regarding the recommendation? If not, I have a mover. It's been moved by Mr. Carby, seconded by Mr. Boughton. Anybody opposed? That is carried. And finally, item 7, 2024-2027 Strategic Plan, report dated February 1, 2024, from the Associate Deputy Chief Payette, Strategic and Executive Services, providing the board with the 2024-2027 Strategic Plan. Again, Chief, any top-up on this?
No, sir. I think Charles will probably introduce our presenters as they come forward to present the board's strategic plan.
Thank you,
Charles,
Chief.
please.
Thank you, Chief. Through you, Chair. Good morning, board members. Today, we're actually really pleased to release our 2024-2027 strategic plan. As you all know, it is the first strategic plans that is released following the new Comprehensive Police Services Act. I would like to highlight that the strategic plan has been developed under the leadership and direction of the Peel Police Services Board. And I cannot miss the opportunity this morning to actually highlight the work done by our Manager Corporate Planning and Research, Sheila Doyle, our Coordinator Corporate Reporting, Christine Yoshiki, and the entire team of the Corporate Planning and Research. Today, I will turn it over to Rob and Sheila to publicly release our strategic plan.
Perhaps before you do, just from our point of view, just if you could give us a top-up at your end first, Rob.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, and thank you to Mr. Payette for that, and to the entire team. The only thing I'll top that up is to highlight 2 points. The first is, as many are aware, the new Comprehensive Police Services Act will come into force on April 1st. It outlines specifics regarding what needs to be contained in the strategic plan, and through the leadership of the team at Peel Regional Police, the strategic plan that will be presented is reflective of those changes, despite the fact that the Act has not yet come into force. And then the only other point I will make to sort of supplement what Mr. Payette had mentioned, the collaboration between the board and the service with respect to the strategic plan is something that has taken place well more than the entire year that went into the planning here. Certainly the development of this current strategic plan really began as soon as the last strategic plan was approved by the board. And then throughout the year, as new information, opportunities, issues came up, notes have been provided by the board to the service to be reflected in the current strategic plan. And so from my own personal opinion, perspective, I'd like to thank the board for their work on this. It's not always easy to find time in everyone's schedules to get together. The board certainly made this a priority. And I can't thank the service enough for the dedication and the work that went in from their end to developing the strategic plan.
Well said. Please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you and good morning. I'm pleased to be here in front of you to present the 2024-2027 strategic plan on behalf of the board and Peel Regional Police. I want to echo Charles's or Associate Deputy Chief Payette's thanks for Manager Doyle and Christine Yoshiki, who worked diligently, and their teams on preparing the plan with the board and with the community. So as you're aware, we are guided by the requirements of the Police Services Act to provide a strategic plan every 4 years And this, in the legislation, it identifies that we must include certain items that are addressed in the strategic plan, and how the Police Service Board will ensure the provisioning of adequate and effective policing in accordance with the needs of our population and our community. The 2024-2027 strategic plan outlines the objectives and priorities that the board has identified that our service will need to undertake to meet the needs of our vibrant and our unique and our growing community. The Community Safety and Policing Act also identifies the groups that should be included in the consultation process to support the development of the strategic plan. In addition to collaboration between Police Service Board and Peel Regional Police, feedback from our community and our partners was integral in developing this plan. This included interactions with community leader workshops. We had 2 workshops and we invited representatives from the school board, the community organizations, policing partners, that would be like fire and paramedics, community partner surveys, and community surveys. And the community surveys were residential surveys, a business survey, and an online survey. We also worked alongside internal and external stakeholders, groups that represented both the community and the population we serve. In addition to the survey and workshops, we also leverage feedback gathered through engagements with the Anti-Racism Advisory Council and the Chief Resource Council, the South Asian Community Engagement, Governance and Human Rights Committee, and community delegations that were held here. And we also used the Peel Regional Police Employee Survey as input to developing the plan. The 2024-2027 to 2027 strategic plan upholds our vision of a safer community together. At its core, it is a renewed commitment to addressing our key priorities through community safety and well-being initiatives. It continues to highlight collaboration and partnerships as vital pillars of our service. Our value statement has been updated and upholds our values of trust, not only for our community, but for Peel Regional Police members, both civilian and sworn. The plan builds upon the successful framework that was set out in the 2020 to 2023 strategic plan. It continues to be guided by 3 priorities, and the 3 priorities are our community, our people, and our work. Thank you.
So following that information, turn my mic on. Focusing on our community, I'm going to provide a little bit more detail about the objectives that fall under that. So our goal of under our community is to achieve community safety and well-being in collaboration with our partners. You'll notice on here as I go through the objectives that we'll be talking about is shortened from what the full version is that will be online. So we're going to focus on we're committed to ensuring the safety and well-being of the Peel community. We'll see a common thread throughout all of these objectives with relation to our community partners and a CSWB approach. So we'll continue to focus on community safety and well-being in challenging in meeting the challenges of our community daily. They reflect the key priorities of our community that we heard about in our sessions and in our surveys. And we will make sure that we continue to focus on crime prevention, road safety, and priority populations at the forefront, while continuing to respond to community calls and ensuring that we are meeting the needs. We will also be ensuring that those in vulnerable situations receive the help they need when they need it. And we'd be remiss if we didn't make sure that we were measuring how we were doing on these areas. So we will ensure we meet these We've identified some performance indicators that will help to ensure we are meeting those objectives. We'll be focusing on our crime rates. We'll be looking at decreasing wait times, which ties in very much to what Deputy Chief O'Doherty was talking about earlier. And we'll look at improving service delivery. We'll make sure our current crime rates are below and our solvency rates are above provincial and national standards. And additionally, we will be focusing on CSWB by ensuring that we are measuring the referrals that are going to CSWB to identify social risk factors from our initial call response. The second goal or second area focusing in the strategic plan is our people. We know that by investing in our people, we're promoting a culture of accountability, which will foster trust within our community and encourage people in our organization to be their best. We're promoting inclusivity, engagement, and progressiveness in our workplace. This includes strategies and initiatives that support employee wellness and development, and ensuring that there are direct, open lines of communication. We will continue to ensure that our membership reflect the diversity that is our community strength. And again, looking at performance measurements in relationship to the objectives that we've just talked about, we'll continue to ensure that PRP members represent the community through recruitment and hiring, and we'll be focusing on objectives related to employee wellness, growth, safety, and communication as measured through employee engagement scores. And our third objective under our work, we'll be looking at ensuring accountability, equity, and innovative service excellence. Under these objectives, we find our work focuses on how we provide the service both internally and externally to our community members to continue to build trust and confidence. We continue to focus on collaboration and engagement with our partners. And again, that's something that you've already heard about here today that we're already working on, and we will continue to grow that. And focusing on our CSWB partners. We are committed to innovation and technology and the adoption of sustainable environmental practices. We'll follow our facility plans to make sure we provide a safe and healthy workplace. We will also follow our DEI strategy and the human rights plan to make sure that we are providing a safe and healthy workplace for the community and for our staff. Fiscal responsibility and service excellence are key objectives within this area as well. We'll measure how we're doing in this area by focusing on reviewing and addressing public's feedback and concerns. We'll be measuring scores related to public trust and confidence. And we will be monitoring public complaints, reviewing them and making sure that we are identifying where we can make improvements. And we will continue to monitor de-escalation techniques that they're used in use of force incidents and reporting on these on a regular basis. So how will we do all of this? What we wanted to talk here a little bit about is how internally we support the strategic plan. All areas of the organization will be asked to develop management action plans where they will be setting out goals and identifying performance measurements that set the objectives that you've just heard about. They will be required to update and report on those annually, and the system will be live so that additions can be made as needed and adjustments can be made as needed. And overall, we provide feedback to the board and to the public on a yearly basis. Our annual report is set up to ensure that we are reporting on progress with all of the objectives and performance indicators that we've just talked about. And in the end, I would also like to thank the many people that have been involved in developing this plan. PSB is the lead, and the executive team of PRP, employees, community members, and community partners. I would also wanted to send out a special thank you to Christine Yoshiki, who can't be here today, but who, through her work, coordinated and managed the process. The public feedback was extensive and has helped. We've tried to ensure that we've recognized the feedback they've given us and made sure we're addressing their concerns. Again, I'd like to thank the PSB for their support, and hopefully we will see over the next 4 years that we can meet the objectives that have been identified.
Thank you. If I could, on behalf of the board, first of all, well done. I've been around so long. I think the first strategic plan I saw, not on behalf of the police services, but in all the things that I saw, was 36 years ago. And early on, they sounded like a lot of motherhood. Like, that sounds great, but what does it really mean? And we've evolved so much, and this is why I give you so credit. They certainly have to be aspirational, but they're actionable. And this is where you've succeeded, I think. And I know a lot of work's gone into it. Shout out to Mr. Attia for all the work he's done on this file as well. And that's why I'm so proud, because then it's measurable and we can see how we're doing. So this really speaks to that. So very well done to everybody on the service and the whole team, because we're very proud of this. And really, it's our foundation. So on behalf of the board, thank you very, very much. If I have no other questions, it's moved by Mr. Attia, seconded by Mr. Carby. Here for receipt. Thank you very, very much. With that, I can now adjourn the public portion of our meeting, and we're going to go right into in camera once my colleagues tell me. I have the formal motion of adjournment from Mr. Carby, seconded by Mayor Brown. We stand adjourned, and now we will go in camera, and I'll let the clerk let me know when we're properly in camera.